Hey, how's it going? I'm here in this office once again to regale you, tell you, talk to you, talk at you. I don't know. I feel like it's a dialogue of some sort. It's just taking a while for people to respond. Although people have been responding in person, so I appreciate that. Hello, I'm Snedeker. This is my podcast where I just do stuff. That's the podcast. If you like something with a little more pizzazz or a little bit more structure, I have two other ones, Mitten Backstage and Life is a Piano. But this one is the Snedeker podcast, and we're going to start it now. How are you doing? Specifically you. No, not you. How are you doing? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Through my own setting up of this intro. I am here again doing kind of a back-to-back thing. And usually I try to keep this podcast in the moment, a little bit topical. It's topical to this in the sense that as I'm recording this is what I'm thinking about right now. But I wanted to get a little ahead because I don't know if I feel like I mentioned it on a podcast. I have some work that I want to do. That means, okay, if I get certain things done, ready to go early, I can do the other things that I need to do. I can carve out time. So yeah. Hello. I am so excited. I'm so excited. Every time I think of so excited, go look up Bitconnect. Carlos Vatos, he was part of Bitconnect, which was a big old Bitcoin scam, but he is forever memed as this dude who was hyping up Bitconnect to the highest amount of praise, and then it just fell so far. I think someone who made it took $1 million and vanished or something. And a lot of people lost money, but he was hype, and one of his things, he's like, I am so excited to be telling you about Bitconnect. Very hype. I wish he could hype up, when I buy organic produce or something. He's not buying the things that have the preservatives. He's buying tomato. And he is Hispanic, and I know it's not a good Hispanic accent, so stop. He's trying. No, just how he sounds. Go look him up. He's such a character. I think he's a guru now. He's like, for $500 an hour, I will solve your life. And some people are like, good, because I got all this money, but I don't have a life. We're not here to talk about Carlos. I wanted to talk about something I brought up in the last episode. Because when I'm talking to you right now, it's literally seconds, minutes, since I recorded the last one. Because I thought it popped up during the episode. I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about. I mentioned in last week's episode, music conventions, and not NAMM, the NAMM conference, or the PASIC drum conference, not that type of convention. I mean conventions in music education, the music landscape. And one of the things that I haven't done, and I don't really do, is teach. And that might come as a surprise to some of you who don't know me as well. To those of you who know me better, know that I'm not it's weird. I want to educate people, and I want to do it in a way that's comfortable for me and kind of fits the landscape music is shifting towards. Because as much as I cannot understate how, having a private instructor, having multiple private instructors, doing it every year of my life, learning an instrument, learning this vocation, learning this thing that I really do enjoy doing, which is playing, keys. I like doing that. I like being able to like, I don't have to think about this. To some people, it's like C, A, F, D, and that's where you start. And some people are like, this sucks. I'm gonna go back to being bitter. I'm gonna wait 20 years and then tell someone, I see at a gig like, I took piano once. Cool. How'd that go? Are you a pianist now? No. Cool. And that part of my, well, let's examine. Part of my things that I like about the teachers I've had, I've been introduced to things I normally wouldn't have explored. And it broadened my horizons, whether it was an ensemble, a private lesson, a clinic, whatever. Something about attending, regular educational things, absorbing that info made a lot of progress and a lot of sense to what I was doing. I got way better at my instrument from high school through the colleges I went to. I was, studying Bach at a young age, Bach and Haydn and Mozart and all those things. And I enjoy, there was a lot of things I enjoyed about all the teachers I've had, their knowledge, their approach to the instrument in ways that I, obviously as I'm learning, like I never thought to try that, or let me go learn how to do that. And then, there's this expectation that, all right, you've learned a lot. Now you go teach someone. Okay, but I don't want to sit in a room for a half hour or an hour with, 30 students across a week. And because then what does your life become? It becomes for the students. And if I don't have a passion for students like I need to, like the people who are teachers right now, they are just slushing it. I don't know if that's the right word. they're just they have so much to deal with. Like, hey, excuse me, could we buy a new No, there's nothing in the budget for new instruments. He can't play clarinet. And it's like, they're dealing with administrative top-down people being like, I never did band. I don't know why we even need it. People show up for sports more than they do for the arts. We don't even need it. Blah, 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 blah. There's administrative people at the top being, they're like, all right, we have $250,000 for this high school football stadium, or we, probably more than that for a stadium, or we can use that $250,000 and provide free instruments to use for students that cannot afford one for themselves, and we can revamp all of the music spaces in our school. That doesn't happen all the time. It usually when something gets expanded it's or like, there's an effort to improve. It's usually because it's a combination of the donors want to see something they can use, right? They want an updated theater so they can go see shows. They want, a better, band program so that when they put their name on the building, it reflects good on them and their generosity. And I get it. It's a jaded view. I'm not saying that there isn't the capacity for altruism from the wealthy. I'm just saying there are a lot of wealthy people who just, a lot of their thinking is around money. So if it has to do with giving of their own wealth to something they don't see as deserving. Or don't deem deserving, which is always a sliding scale, and it's never based in true reality. So, it's all these assumptions. There's a toxicity that comes into academia because you're looking for that money, you're looking for the handout, and you're looking, and improvements are being made. But I think of Grand Valley. I love that they updated the theater. I love that there's, another chunk of offices that are like dedicated to jazz and the new music ensemble and offices. That's so cool. One thing they didn't do, update the practice rooms. It is literally a bunch of pianos just shoved in a concrete room, like temperature control, who cares? Soundproofing, who cares? It's just a cacophony of people working on this, the same 13 pieces because everyone's got to go through some sort of curricula and a lot, if you're a saxophonist, you're going to play these 15 songs as a classical saxophone player. And if you're a pianist, you're probably going to touch on most of the classics, most of the classic composers. I wasn't really like that. And I think it was a combination of my professor seeing that, but also me not being it. Like I haven't learned any of those like the Revolutionary Etude or like bigger Beethoven pieces. I was learning I was trying to learn Stockhausen and like weird like graphic scores like where it's not even notes. It's just like someone took artwork and like manipulated it around, and then I drew a path for the jury panelists to be like, oh, this is how he's interpreting this score. But back to why I don't really teach. Part of it is time. I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time. That's a bare minimum thing is you need a lot of time. You need time to think about, all right, Billy learned this. Next week, we'll follow up with Billy. What should 3 months down the line, what is Billy going to learn? What is our goalpost for Billy? And then multiply that by, 15 other students of all different ages. Adults who think they know better than, the musicians they try to take lessons from. And it's like, do you I don't want to put up with adults that are just like, this doesn't seem like I'm learning anything. It's like, no, you know why it looks cool? Is because you see people in like fancy fashionable dresses and they're just doing like like very expressive, and you're like, that could be me. And then how do you play that? It's like, well, learn your chord shapes, learn those basic, root position chords, learn inversions, learn arpeggios, learn scales. That wasn't even that clean. I really need to get a keyboard cam. I had one. I don't know where it went. I gotta find it. But it's like, how do you learn how to talk? Babies just kind of go like, and you're like, yeah, it is hot today. I don't know, can she talk yet? Like babies are they're trying stuff out. They're going like, and then eventually they go, Mom, and then someone's like, by God, she did it. Through no fault of us, she has learned to speak the English language. And same thing with music. You can't expect to just sit down and be like, this is full type thing. Like first you need to know what chords those are. C, D, F, all 7 chords. And then you have to have the dexterity in both hands to do this walk up in tenths in different, you gotta, I'm not thinking about those notes. I'm thinking about the shape, maybe. It's a lick. I'm not going like, okay, C, 7 chord, okay, walk down to, okay, there's F, C. Like my dictation of what I'm trying to do, it would have to be picked up by a computer because your brain's just doing something that feels as natural as moving your hands and walking and talking. And it's not, like I say, I don't have time. I would have to really make a concerted effort to make the time. It's not like I haven't had plenty of opportunities to teach. There are plenty of opportunities. Everyone's trying to learn. Every parent who read a study that music helps their kid perform better in school suddenly wants their kid to study piano, and maybe they don't even want, and maybe their kid doesn't want to study it. And then from a lot of the teachers I hear right now, a lot of the ones that didn't go through, a classical training like I did or a jazz training, which are kind of the two Western music dichotomies, classical music and jazz music, because you get the foundations of, a lot of the notes in Western notation. You get a lot of the, the dexterity and the technique that comes from learning those types of things, wait. Remember how that goes, the Mozart song. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you're learning classical, you're having to learn scales, or, trying to practice scales and other inversions, different chord qualities, major, minor, augmented, like an inversion of a 4 chord in the key of F. This, crunchy, like, oh, we'll put the tritones up. Or the tritone. I didn't substitute the whole chord. I just put the tritone in there. The flat 2. And then it's not a tritone up from F. Semantics. You get what I'm saying. The classical and jazz are like the two big dogs. And most people don't want to put in that grueling work. They want to get to play, I got the feeling inside my bones, which is so easy to teach someone who just wants to learn this. But then all you're getting is situational, like you're getting situational moments of music rather than understanding the vocabulary behind it. Like, I could tell someone, like, hit these 3 notes, G, C, E. I'll tell you right now, G, C, E, and then in octaves, C, A, F, A. It's all built around it's just built around that. And then, okay, the B section, you gotta learn a couple other things. Play that same C on the bottom, but play a B flat major root position chord. B flat D F. Then you go back to the C chord, and then the B flat over the C, and then the C. And then you take that B flat over C, and you move it down a whole step. So the B flat is now in the bass, and you have an A flat on top. In the same motion where you shift to the root, to the B flat, and then F minor of some kind. I do a F minor 7, because then you can just keep the A flat and the C and the E flat, and then you go up to the B flat. And I'm adding a G, so it's a little more that kind of suspended dominant feel. And then it just come on, I'm mashing around on bending and dance. Can't stop the feeling. Oh, so sick of this song. It's just a song that's like when you're performing it. Like, I performed it at the Super Hot Wedding the other weekend, and you're just sitting there like, I'm glad you're having fun. I've got this feeling. I'm really dehydrated. It's over 95 and humid in this vineyard. It's really hot, and there's no AC. There's just a couple big fans, and they built this greenhouse thing that they're trying to keep open, and it doesn't really work. And it's, just annoying. It's got a lot of, like, bugs are flying in. It's just hot. Everyone's hot. People are drinking, and with their, heat exhaustion, it's all, like, just culminating in this, like, feeling of, like, can we even, enjoy this wedding anymore? Because everyone's just kind of like, a guy kept coming up to me like, hey, just give me the mic. I'll let everyone know what's up. And you're like, no, we already told him, go away. It's time to go home. You need to go home. Get on that shuttle because you're drunk and you're not going to drive home. And you're taking the school bus. It was a school bus, by the way. So probably another hot ride. I don't know. It was like, you play those tunes, it's just whatever. But what I'm saying is, I can teach you how to play stuff. The discipline is where, I don't have the patience. If I was an older musician who, felt satisfied, that's another thing. I haven't reached the mountaintop. There is no mountaintop. It's like, I gotta reach, a good footing where I'm like, I like it here. I like this part of the mountain. I can go a little higher and I'll see what's up there. But I at least have this spot that I'm glad to be at. And some people, they don't want to live near a mountain. They want to live near a lake. And they just want that calming, refreshing feeling of like waking up and being like, just peace and tranquility. But so part of it's time, part of it is, I said it, it's jaded. It's a little cynical of students where I want students to succeed. And I will create things to help people learn. I like talking to people about music, and I like talking to my peers who are gigging in scenes about music because we have the same footing. We can understand each other when we talk about chords, when we talk about scales, when we talk about recordings, when we talk about transcriptions, when we talk about production, when we talk about gear, when we talk about mic placement, when we talk about, soft synths versus hardware, an integration of both, when we talk about MIDI, when we talk about, beat making, whatever, there is a working vocabulary. I'm not going to, have those conversations necessarily with a young kid. Not that it couldn't happen. And eventually I do see myself opening myself up to having a studio, but I'm on a different trajectory. And that, if it doesn't excite me, then why am I subjecting myself to it? I did that for years with like certain groups that I was involved in, certain, things that I wasn't really like, like they start out fun and then you're like, this isn't fun. I've been in just all sorts of groups where I'm like, okay, this isn't it. This is a rung on the ladder to the thing I want to do. And some people would say, be grateful you could be in the music industry at all. How dare you say that you don't want to teach and pass on knowledge to the next generation and let people know. It's like, no, I want to, but I want to do it in a medium that makes sense. Like Charles Cornell, a great example, he's built a YouTube following and he's definitely an educator in that respect. Most of his videos are educational. They're breaking down songs. They're talking about topics. They're demonstrating concepts. You get a mix of classics and modern. You get some off the wall stuff like his reharms of, Nicki Minaj screaming about the coronavirus. You get this wide swath of stuff. And it's all educational. And then he's built an educational platform through CuriosityStream. I'm just promoting Charles Cornell right now. Through CuriosityStream, partnered with, other creatives who want to make longer form content. And they take, they make a video that's like, this is for YouTube. And then if you want to learn more, or you want to see the full process of a transcription, or if you want, a more detailed breakdown of a song, you could go to those sources. And some people don't like that paywall aspect. I would find a model that works better for me, which is kind of why I have the Patreon. I'm trying to figure out how to provide how to entice people to support my creative efforts while also giving them things that they enjoy and that they want to engage with. So that's where my desire for, talking about music, educating people about music is different than being in strictly academia and strictly Like, I get it. Academia affords you, there's plenty of opportunities for endorsements, for recognition, for touring, for traveling. But there's no incentive for me to do that right now. What, just because I have a master's degree, I just expected to go right back into the school system that I was just waiting so desperately to get out of? When I graduated my master's, even that interim year that I didn't attend a school, I still worked in a school. So you think of my life, I'd been in school since 4 years old. I had never known a year where I had ever had any moment off at all, ever, from any schooling. I barely took sick days. I barely was missing classes. I've done school long enough. I can go back to it later. Maybe, I have a family. I should probably make more money to support them. But I also want to get to a point where I'm making the things that reflect what the industry is nowadays. That you have to carve out your chunk of space, doing different things. You got to be a performer. You got to be some sort of studio person. You got to be some sort of, music business thing. Maybe not all of those at once. Maybe you pick a couple, like maybe you're a great guitar player and then you teach on the side and your gigging schedule reflects the fact that you teach. So you have a good balance of everything. Maybe you are just hustling super hard so that you can bet against your future self. Like maybe you're in a workflow that's like, I'm going to put in a bunch of hours doing this thing and I have a plan of what my life is going to look like in 5 years. Like maybe you have that maybe you're fortunate enough to have that sort of job stability where you can plan for those future things. Because, music can be such, as we saw last year, music just vanished. And then people were like, well, how do we support the art? Money. How do we support the art? Money. Well, what do you need? Money? How about some money? I need more things than money. Money is just, it helps it helps go towards some of, the debts and the things that just accrue being a musician. And being like, credits like free money when you're like 22, and then you're like, I'd spend $8,000. And then you pay off that card and you're like, I did it. I think I still have student loans. But what? It's like, you gotta figure all that out. And, musicians have, even if you don't think you're part of the modern landscape, you just have to translate what you're doing already. Like you're doing multiple, your income isn't from one source, it's from multiple sources. You're building multiple skill sets. Just work with people to put that online. Have someone who's an expert and spends time on social media run your social media for you. If you are like, I don't care about social media, it's all stupid. All right, hire someone or like work with someone who can help. You can't say you hate a thing and then not understand why you hate it, other than just the user culture. If you're a creator, there's a difference in how you interact with the platform. You start to understand that there are trends and systems and algorithms and things in place, but there are also things you can do to have more fun with the platform and not spend all day obsessively on it as well, comparing yourself to every musician that ever exists and ever will exist, because that's how everything's going nowadays. You turn on Facebook and you turn it on. you grab the remote and you flip it to Facebook channel. And you see some 8-year-old from Paraguay who learned, a Steve Vai song note for note with like the same amount of expression and like just a command over the instrument. And you're like, well, it's over. Like, I gotta back it up. He's gonna take it. It's like, no, there's so many gigs. Like Prodigies get all the crazy gigs. They get the gigs that nobody is ever going to get. And that's just how it is. Nobody's gonna get as many gigs as someone who's either worked like crazy to build those connections or it's a combination of both, super talented at a young age and can parlay that into excess. Like, who's that? That kid's killing. Let's go meet Quincy Jones. Let's go meet this person, and that's fine. Like 10 years ago, I might have been like, dart, burp, derp, and like just shaking my fist, like, what's happening? But nowadays, if you are really in it, you can see the path. You can see the landscape you can carve out for yourself. So when I constantly get, hit up about teaching, what also happens is I get hit up from people who never follow through either. I've tried to open myself up to teaching in the past, and I've just, I just sit there being like, all right, are we going to do this? Or like, it's been a couple months, and then, a year goes by. It's like, if you just want to talk about music casually, I'm fine to come hang out. But if you're like looking for formal things, like I got to set time aside. I got to figure that all that out. And it's not where my passions lie right now. And it was a wrestling match to figure that out. Sure, if you are signed up through my Patreon to do that, like, it's fine. It's a consulting role. I'm consulting you about playing. We're also having conversations. It's less of just strict lesson and more of like a holistic approach, at least an attempt at a holistic approach to understanding this instrument or parts of music. Because I don't have all the answers. That's kind of why I want to amend my Patreon and be like, I want people to learn, but I also don't want, I don't want people to feel like they're, just constantly having the pressures of like a lesson schedule. Cause it can be a lot of pressure too. Like you want to feel like you've made progress and be like, it's like, excuse me, teacher, did you appreciate it? I did that for years in school. Just like, please don't yell at me. I'm trying. And, it's like most people who reflect back on times with me, they were just like, they boil it down to like, yeah, I knew you were going to be in music. I just wanted you to, stay on the course that I was trying to set for you to get through this curriculum. And that's kind of how music teaching is. You see the people that are like, you'll be fine. Like, we'll hang out and we'll chat, we'll catch up, we'll do whatever. But you're going to be fine because you have an understanding of your instrument and you understand that music isn't just a one-to-one job. Music is not being a cashier. Music is not going to be, and even a cashier isn't just being a cashier. You're also having to work other parts of the store and the floor. Maybe more of like, you're not in, I don't know, shipping. Shipping can be, I'm trying to think of a job that's very one-to-one. A lot of jobs have little nuances. If you're working, let's say you're working a station at McDonald's, it's designed, like when you think of the original design for McDonald's where they had the little machines that you hit a button, it squirts like 6 patties with ketchup, and then you hit another button and it does with mustard, and you can just quickly like put the burgers together, package them up, and throw them in this front counter for people to just be like, ooh, look at that pile of hamburgers. But if you're the person in the chain just squirting the thing, like you're just boop, 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 and maybe you have to clean the floor. Maybe you have to like know how to close up shop. But for the most part, majority of your job is part of a conveyor belt, and you have to get good at your efficient part of the chain, and everyone has to be good so that when you get 30 cars at 2 in the morning after all the bars close, which what when I see that happen too, I'm like, how is it that the police aren't always in McDonald's? Like, they just see like a rush of cars come in, and they aren't thinking like, how many of these people are like hammered in the McDonald's drive-through line right now? Like, I don't know. But so this episode's going a little longer. All right, let me just recap why I don't necessarily enjoy teaching, at least right now. Maybe in the future. I don't have the time. and maybe that's a little selfish, but I just don't make the time to try and do lessons, which would contradict some of my older ads for some of my other podcasts. But hey, we all go through change. So just that's what the change is. I don't have the desire to be in academia right now. I have to remind myself, I graduated from 23 years of school in 2018. So I had 2 years where I was like, I'm doing stuff, and then the pandemic, and now we're in pandemic world. So I've only been out of academia for a little bit, and some of the things I was working in and around my time in academia influence, this time right now. So I don't really want to go back into that setting because it's, I don't want to look at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the most plain clothes. Like, this shirt is 2 sizes too big because I need to buy new, well, I probably have old shirts I can find, but anyway, I don't want to go back into the academia environment because it'd just be more of the same. It'd be like, why? Some people love that. They're like, oh, cool, I can just work for the same school that I already know how it all works. And that's cool. I'm happy for you. I would not be happy doing that. I would be very resentful because I want to feel like the things that I'm working on are progressing me as a human being. And I'm able to feel and experience these things that you don't get some of these opportunities. Every musician's got a different story, and some people have awesome careers in academia. I've been to MSBOA. I've done band and choir things. I've seen how band directors love their jobs, and to that effect, why I do not want to teach is because I don't have that passion for private lessons. I would rather make something that is, a little bit more long form, like an Adam Neely or a Charles Cornell, or, like people who break down topics in fun and inventive ways, while also demonstrating that they have other, parts of their careers and focuses and things. But I think the last reason why I don't teach too is just there's a cynical perception of teaching because I had to work. Maybe it's, I don't know. I watched this. Go watch Contrapoints, her new documentary. It's like a 2-hour breakdown of envy. She focused on envy, and sometimes the things she mentions sometimes the things we're critical of come from a place of envy. Like when the talk of like canceling student loans, there are a lot of boomers that are like envious because they're like, I never got free college. I had to work 2 jobs and I had to pay my way, and none of these kids should. It comes from a place of envy. It's not from some moral stance on hard work. It's from a place of envy. They're like, why do they get to do it and I didn't get to do it? It's like, because times are different. Cars can run on electricity now. We have 3D. What did you have in the 50s? You had, like two men in a rubber suit, filmed at a certain aspect ratio and then like zoomed in with like a tinier set to make it look like giant monsters. And now we have CG. Like, things change. Things are different. Like, and that's, the reactionary things comes from a place of envy. So when I say I have a cynical feeling towards students, it might come from a place of envy where I envy, envy how simple sometimes people's approaches to, because the needs I have as a musician, as an artist that I need to fulfill, which is why I subject myself. I'm publicly flogging myself on podcast. No, not subject myself. More, which is why I pivot so strongly from the thing that feels too easy, because I want to grow and I want to work. And for a while, I just thought, I was just broken. That I was like, why don't I like teaching? Why don't I like doing these things? It's not. it's not an envious of students. I think it's an envy of other teachers. I don't really have that skill set in some capacity in that setting. And sure, if I worked that muscle, I could learn it, I could do it. It takes time. But there's also a million other things I want to learn. How do I get, sync licensing? I want to get more things syndicated. I want to have, songs reach beyond the boundaries of a state or the trappings of a platform or all those things. And I want to learn the systems to figure out how to, get an income coming in, how to make those smart deals where things are happening and money is being earned to pay against the future art and to support what artists are involved in creating it. I don't want to teach someone how to play a scale because I'm still learning. I'm still actively learning all the time. And sure, you don't have to be perfect to be a teacher. You just have to be transparent. You have to help students and yes. But again, it comes down to time, enthusiasm, and where I'm currently at in my life. I don't have a lot of energy. I haven't, since the whole stone issue, I haven't drank any caffeine. I'm as untouched as I've been in years from the over caffeinated, nervous, anxious, everything was just do something. And now that I'm not really drinking caffeine that often. That drive is still there, but I have to figure out a new way of doing things. I have to adjust to a lifestyle that's here's how you get energy in a healthy way. Here's how you set boundaries as a freelancer so that you're not overworked. Here's how you plan out your day so that you feel like you're doing the right work in the right amount of time. It's all nuance. Nuance is the word of the year for me. Nuance. It's whether it's political or musical or health and wellness. There's nuance. Nobody's the same. I am the only person I know named Dutcher. So even in that respect, I feel like I'm obligated to kind of stand out. And I don't know if that's just by nature or the fact of my personality. I don't know. I can't examine, my well, if we took a Freudian approach, or maybe if we did behavioral psychology from this perspective, we could see the three archetypes of Jungian theory. What am I supposed to? Do you want me to sit here and just posit about my life? That's what apparently that's what people could do. You could sit down and talk to Jordan Peterson about masculinity for 4 hours. I think the causality of masculinity comes from a deep-seated root in the lack of fatherhood in the modern times. It's what do you what's going on? It's you're whatever. Jordan Peterson. He's just a dude. And you can only listen to so many people talk for so many hours in the day before you're like, is anyone doing anything anymore? Are we just positing theories and not, having any sort of concrete action? We're just positing well, maybe we'll end in a dystopia. Maybe we'll all die. Maybe climate will just rage out of control until everything's on fire and we're all, and Michigan's in the center of the water wars. But in in this chaos, if I can, have actionable steps that I enjoy and make me feel fulfilled, I will then be able to translate those feelings out into the world and do the type of work I want to do rather than sitting and doing work I hate. Just that doesn't make me feel comfortable. A lot of it's dealing with parents, because when you kick the ball, it's like when a coach is hey, make sure you play catch with your kid, have him practice his throwing. And you're okay. And then when he comes and he doesn't know how to catch or throw, and then they're you're supposed to teach him. You're the coach. It's he sees me twice a week. He sees you every day. Maybe, follow up. Same thing with piano. Even, arts aren't sports, but in terms of discipline, you can't put all the blame on a piano teacher when your student doesn't want to learn. This is they're crying out I don't want to do this, and then they're yeah, you do. Come on, my little his name is Gabriel, and he's so good at the piano. Listen to him. You hear that? It's the new Billie Eilish song. It's like I don't want to deal with parents who put unrealistic expectations on their children, because then it makes them harder to work with, and it makes a dishonest approach to music. It's not being honest to the student. And yes, you can make that connection with a student and make that impact. But you know what I saw at Allendale High School that really got me thinking when I was working there? Everybody in the school was on YouTube. Everybody. Every single kid wanted to see YouTube. It wasn't who's playing at the VMAs. It wasn't who's, at the Oscars this year. It wasn't any of that. It was, let's watch Bo Burnham. Let's watch, all these music tubers. Let's watch singers. Not Gabby Sings. What is her name? I forget her name. It's a goofy singing parody channel, or like jazz singer reacts to metal vocal. Like, people were watching all these things on YouTube. And what that tells me is that kids want to learn, and there are specific ways they want to learn. And if my video by proxy goes out into a wider demographic of audiences than maybe some of the art I produce, then that, speaks louder than trying to get at each individual. I'm trying to I want to reach beyond the boundaries of what's expected of music, because music is supposed to be limitless. It's not supposed to be this box, this curricula, this thing. It's, half the time we love artists is because they break the mold. They combine styles or combine production techniques. They mess around with gear. They get their hands dirty, and I'm in that mode right now. I want to be in the trenches, and I don't want to just be there like, and in 1945, this big band was touring Europe as part of the war. It's like I'd rather make a video about that topic so I can break it all down, and it's, you can rewatch it, and instead of me repeating it ad nauseum, be like, oh, here's my thoughts on this at this time. Maybe I'll revisit it, but I don't know. I have a different set of goals, and it comes from a place of, part of it's reactionary to academia, being like, I want to figure out something else. I want to figure out something else that works for me, and I don't necessarily want to jump into the trends or the things, that other people have much. Like, why would I go take a band director job when somebody literally lives and breathes to become a band director? I would not want to take that job away from someone. So here I am doing this podcast. Thanks for hanging out a little bit longer this week. Wow. I'm looking at my iPhone and seeing the timestamp. I appreciate y'all for listening. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this subject, so I wanted to get my thoughts out. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you understand a little bit more about my perspective. Hopefully you can share this with people who might ask why I'm not following up with them about teaching, because most times I meet people, they're like in a state of inebriation, like, you should see this channel. I was like, why? I know your name. I'm glad you want to learn music, but I think there's got to be another thing. Because you know what? Same thing. None of those people have followed up with me. It's been months. I probably should have followed up with them, but I got so busy, and my email gets piled up, and you're just like, I'm focusing on this thing, and then you put a little star on next to it, but it's buried under 50 other things with stars on it, because you're like, I need to remember these things. And oh, isn't life just all over the place? But one thing that's for certain is that you can go to patreon.com/Snedeker to support the podcast, or Snedeker.com to just see everything that I'm up to around the internet. Things are going to be updated, like I keep mentioning, by my birthday, which will be September 10th. So I'll probably do some sort of thing if I don't have a gig. I might do something earlier in the day. Maybe something music related, just to kind of celebrate all the new new stuff. So keep an eye out for all that, and we'll see you next week on the Dutcher Snedeker podcast, where I do stuff and I play the piano sometimes, but I don't know